Hey everyone, today I'm at the Moscow Food Co-op. I thought that this great little grocery store was a really great place to do our grocery shopping tour because, well, two reasons. It's a cute little grocery store and I love it so much. And also, they always have some really nice, interesting veggies. And I really want to put a big emphasis on veggies through this challenge. So, we're going to go through it. Every time you go grocery shopping, there's a couple of really good habits that I want you to start with. Firstly, I want you to make sure that you head into the grocery store with a list. Always stick to the list, ideally, and I'm going to go over some exceptions to that rule in just a bit. But I really want you to focus on creating a meal plan for the week and sticking to that list as you head into the grocery store. So your first tip, I really want you to focus on sticking to the outer edge of the store because this is where we're going to find the majority of the food that we're going to eat and consume throughout the week. Mainly fresh fruits and vegetables, as well as the lean proteins that we're looking for. And those things aren't in the center aisles, they're always on the outside because that's where the fridges are. So I want you to focus on choosing foods in the fridge or the freezer and mainly avoiding the center aisles with the exception of the fiber filled carbohydrates that we are going to focus on, such as whole grains, whole wheat tortillas, brown rice, things that are higher in fiber. Those are going to be the carbohydrates that we're choosing. Always make sure that you're going into the grocery store with a list and doing your best to stick to it. Now, some exceptions to this might be exploring some fun new vegetables. That would be a really great thing to explore. So if you love going to the grocery store and it's really fun for you, I'd like you to focus on finding some new veggies that you can try that week. Another thing that you can explore is the seasonings aisle. Look out for things that kind of spark your interest. If you go down the seasoning aisle and you're like, oh, this sounds great, this sounds really, really delicious, grab it and add that to your meal for the week. Tip number 2, do not shop hungry. I always find it best to either shop after lunch, maybe even after dinner, but at a time when you're fully satiated and you can stick to the list without it being too much of a challenge. All right, tip number 3 is I want you to avoid purchasing items that you have tended to overeat in the past. So, for example, if I just love Oreos, it's probably not a good idea, especially in the beginning, to go and buy a big pack of Oreos for your kids or your husband whenever you have had a tendency to overeat those in the past. Tip number 4 is I want you to focus on choosing carbohydrates that are high in fiber. These are things such as whole grains. You can choose whole wheat breads, whole wheat tortillas, um, brown rice, things like this that are going to make sure that they are supporting your goals. Sorry. Before getting to the store, a shopping list and a meal plan for the week will be the most important steps that you can take to set yourself up for success. Without a meal plan, you're literally just setting yourself up to fall back and make decisions on the fly, which honestly rarely end well. By making an intentional meal plan, you are choosing to assume the best about yourself and your intentions. And this mindset is going to begin changing your relationship with food and your nutrition. So I attached a sample shopping list to yesterday's PDF that shows some of the foods I'd suggest incorporating to your shopping list. So let's go. So as I touched on earlier, we are going to be spending the majority of our shopping trip on the outer edge of the store. Through my experience, I've seen that it's generally easiest to have 1 or 2 breakfast options to switch through between the week. And the same with lunch, maybe 2 or 3 things that are easy to pack, like a salad or a sandwich. Dinner is where the majority of your variety will come from and where I'd love to see you get really creative. So here we are in the produce section. I love the co-op because there are always some interesting veggies that spark some interest, and I'd really love you to try a new veggie each week and maybe try to mix it, match it with some spices that really get excited about your meal. Having veggies doesn't mean eating a salad each meal. Making this work long term means making things interesting and exciting and creating meals with flavor. So I love myself some delicious rainbow carrots, roasted beets, mushrooms, and onions make delicious bases for soups or stir fries. Zucchini are literally the most versatile veggie in my book. Headed over to the fruit. These are great carb sources because they're filled with fiber and micronutrients. Berries are so high in fiber and make awesome breakfast smoothies with a little bit of banana and protein powder. So good. Other great carb sources from the produce aisle are sweet potatoes, yams, potatoes, and while these veggies aren't what we'd have at dinner, they make great choices for your carb choice for breakfast or lunch. The bulk section is another great area to get some great fiber-filled carbs. Beans, legumes, they're filled with fiber and great choices for hitting your protein goal. Hummus, canned grains as well are such great sources of fiber. When you're looking at a food label and trying to decide if an item is a good choice as a high fiber carb, check the label, the total carbs listed, and then look below at the fiber content. What you're looking for is at least 1 gram of fiber for every 10 grams of total carbs. So for this, we can see that we have 20 total carbs and 3 grams of fiber. So this passes the test and would qualify as a good high fiber carb. So protein, the building blocks of muscle. I love these Egg Life wraps. They're pure protein. Another great choice is tofu. I don't eat tofu all that often, but I do have a mean tofu mousse, chocolate mousse recipe, and I'm going to find that and share it later on because it's so good. Veggie-based meats are sometimes a good option, but always check the label. Sometimes, even though they are in the protein section, they don't actually have that much protein content, and they're sometimes really high in fat. So check the label and make sure that you're choosing something that has way more protein than fat or carbs. I found that a good rule of thumb would be to choose a protein with about 5 times the protein as fat. So these here have 15 grams of fat and 15 grams of protein, so probably not a very good choice. I do love deli meat for lunch. These are so good, and as you can see, they have 1.5 grams of protein and 1.5 grams of fat and 14 grams of protein. So these easily pass that 5-to-1 test that I talked about. Other great options would be things like 97 or 99% lean ground meats. Many brands of turkey bacon would pass that test, and things like this. Just be sure to check the label and choose leaner cuts of meat. Okay, eggs. These are kind of a tricky one because we usually think of them as a protein source, but in reality, they do not pass that 5-to-1 guideline that I talked about with protein and fat. And because of this, I suggest opting for egg whites over eggs. Spices. So this is where I would highly recommend spending a great deal of time. Learning to love healthy food is easy when you take the time to add flavor. So explore the spice aisle and spend some time here, maybe even Googling recipes while you're there that use spices that you haven't heard of before, you don't know how to use. Another section I love is the tea aisle. This is always a great way to end your night, and it can be something to look forward to. We really want to, as we move forward, avoid late night snacking, but late night teas are a great way to wind down and kind of wrap up your evening. Homework for today is to create a meal plan and shopping list for next week. Not this week, but next week. This week, we're just focused on tracking meals and eating at the table undistracted. But next week, we will be taking the next step. And I want you to be prepared to get your meal plan and your shopping list together. So when you've done so, I'd love to see you share a meal idea that you've decided on for the week with the group. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.